the other day and I called her. I was like, I know you.
You do?
Mm-hmm. Your face, I just cannot pinpoint where, but it's going to hit me at the wrong time, but it will hit me.
It's okay. It's okay because if you have Rocki's information, then you have my
next
information.
week,
So if you remember, you can always give us a call, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
So hopefully it's a positive memory, though. That's why I say to people when they say, I hope you remember me well.
But you know what? That's the one thing that I do pride myself on is to make sure that I do treat people like I want to be treated because for that reason. I don't never know who I'm going to run into later on that's going to be able to help or I'm going to be able to help them. And I don't want it to be any bad blood. I've run into different jobs that I had. And they're like, oh, such and such works here. And she gave me a good reference, or he gave me a good reference. And I know it's because of the relationship that we build. So if it is a memory, I'm almost positive it's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way. Because you never know when you're going to run into people again. You don't know when you're going to see them again, when they're going to see you. And I'm, my granddaddy taught me you treat the janitor the same way you treat the CEO.
That's right.
We all eat, sleep, and bleed. Okay. So, all right, ladies, let's go ahead and get started. Robin, go ahead. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you are on Facebook, you can go to the Rocki's Reality Facebook page and share it on your page. You can share the live video on your page. And then, just make sure you turn down your phone or whatever.
That's what I was doing. You had to turn down the volume, right?
What? Dr. Tucker, you've been getting it, though. Don't say you don't know how to do it. I see you. You've been getting it. You know what you're doing.
Try it. You said go to your page, and I was going to try it. I don't know.
So go to Rocki's Reality.
I'm not by myself.
So go to Rocki's Reality, and you should see on Rocki's Reality, it's a live video on there now. We're on there live. And then just share it like you would share any other post. Just hit share and then share it to your page.
And you just have to put the volume down, right?
Put the volume down on your phone so it's no feedback.
Got it.
Because we're live on there now.
Got it.
Yep, look, because see, I need to turn mine down.
Okay.
Yep. So let me go ahead and okay, Robin, go ahead. Thank you. I think we all set now.
Welcome to Rocki's Reality. Get ready for unfiltered and unapologetic culture, entertainment, relationships, and a little bit of politics on Motor City Woman Radio. Follow Rocki's Reality on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. In the meantime, let's go.
Welcome back to Rocki's Reality, everyone. And of course, I want to welcome my guest, my lovely guest tonight, who I am just so honored to have you ladies on to have this discussion about mental health. Reminder to everyone, please share the live video. Please invite people to join because we are going to have a very fruitful discussion about mental health. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. As you all know, I am a strong advocate of mental health. I just had my therapy yesterday. Shout out to my therapist. Gets me together. I always see therapy as, for me, it's maintenance. I see it as being proactive. My thing is, as I've told my girlfriends and other female friends and even men, we go get our hair done. We go get our nails done. Hey, Napoleon's coming on. We go get haircuts. We take our cars for oil changes. We wash the siding on our homes. We do all this maintenance for all these things in our life, right? But do we maintain our mental health? Right. So I really want to encourage people to start having more casual conversations about mental health. Like, how you say, I'm going to the store? I want people to start saying, I'm going to therapy, and it not be this stigma or this wow factor, especially for Black people, because we have a lot of trauma generationally and just currently that we have to unpack and deal with. So I really hope after this discussion tonight, we're going to give you all some resources. And of course, we have resources here tonight as my guest. And I just really hope this conversation helps someone. So, and I really hope it encourages someone to seek out therapy if you need it, because a lot of times we do need that objective voice. It's great if you have friends and family who can love on you and support you, and that's always great, but we need that objective voice at times, people who don't know us. So I just want to welcome my guest, my cousin, Dr. Mo Aguirre. Thank you, Mo. I love you and appreciate you. I know this was your dad's birthday today.
Yeah.
So happy heavenly birthday to Uncle Gary. So I thank you for coming on tonight. So Dr. Mo Aguirre, Mo Aguirre, I'm about to say Aguirre.
A mess.
Is the CEO of Resilient Counseling, Wellness, and Psychological Services. She possesses over 10 years of experience in counseling. She's provided in-home counseling for adults and adolescents and those who struggle with self-harm, eating disorders, suicidal ideations, depression, etc. She specializes in cognitive behavioral therapy, crisis intervention, intimate partner violence. She also is a doctor of public health. So she knows how to mesh the public and the mental health side of things. So I'm not going to read everything. I'm going to direct people to your website later on, Dr. Mo, but welcome to Dr. Mo Aguirre.
Thank you.
Why am I saying Aguirre? Aguirre, that's that Freudian slip. But Dr. Monique Aguirre of Resilient Wellness Psychological Services. Then we also have now we got two Moniques on here, y'all. So we're going to try not to get confused tonight. Somebody go play that in the lottery. You have two ladies on the same name.
Yeah.
So we have also Dr. Monique Tucker, who is with Family Matters Psychological and Counseling Services. She is known as the Motivator, changing lives one mind at a time. She challenges you to change your perception and develop a new way to think on your journey about life. She's a clinical psychologist. She is also the founder of Rare Unique Beauty Inside Every Sister, a nonprofit organization, and also Pink Proverbs. She is known as an encourager, leader, therapist, coach, speaker, author as well. And then Napoleon was like, look, I'm gonna surprise you and keep you on your toes. So we have Mr. Napoleon Harrington joining us early, which I'm so glad. Welcome back to the show, Napoleon, because Napoleon was here about, I want to say, was it 3 years ago when we did our blended families? Show we talked about blended families, and Napoleon was our resident therapist at the time. So Napoleon had played me out saying he wasn't going to be able to join until after 8. So I'm glad you are here, Napoleon, because I always appreciate a male voice. You are the founder and CEO of Ambassador Counseling and Consulting Services. Napoleon, just right quick, tell us what you specialize in.
Anxiety, depression, a lot of the other conversations that Dr. Mo and Dr. Mo, a lot of those similar topics, the worry well, those kind of things. So it's a lot of the similar things. But one of the kind of niches is courage, the conversation related to courage.
Right, because you are known as the courage counselor. Right. So I'm glad and I appreciate, because I always, women, we always ready to talk and discuss, right? But men tend to shy away a little bit more and are not as vocal, especially when it comes to mental health. So I really appreciate all of you being here today. And Napoleon, I really appreciate you taking time, because again, as a man, I really appreciate when men can provide a perspective to other men, because that encourages other men to listen and take it serious. So, and I think that it's really integral for our men to be more on board with mental health, because you all are the heads of our households, in our communities as well, and our leaders. So I really think it's important that a lot of our men and women get their mental health in check. So welcome everyone to the show again. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you all. So I just want to ask first how you all are doing, because it's like you all are people, everyone comes to you when stuff is not going right in their lives, or they got issues going on. So I want to ask first,
how are you all doing today? And I'll start with Dr. Mo Aguirre.
I'm doing good. Well, today I'm a little emotional. So, but outside of that, I've been doing pretty good. I'm busy. I'm on planes here and there. So I'm not per se stuck in the house as most people are because, of what I do. And so I'm not, although I get I'm on a ledge because I don't like being on the planes and, I don't like being around people. I don't want you coughing and or sneezing by me. And so outside of that, it's not the mental per se, it's just my body's drained, and you are more so, I think on high end of, oh my God, this is because it's real. I had COVID back in October. And I don't know. I don't even think I called you up in and told you guys, but
yeah, I was about to say you didn't tell it. Oh, okay, see, there you go.
Yeah,
see, Dr. Mo, see this. Let me interject right here because she one of them family members. She'll be up in the hospital.
I don't call anyone.
Won't tell nobody. Yeah. And you be like, you know what?
Yeah.
So I'm glad you survived that though. Okay, so you had it back in October 2020.
I did, and I wind up staying. I was in the hotel working on a base, and wind up staying in the hotel for 17 days. But during that time, actually, I was doing speaking engagements via Zoom. Some of my colleagues from college, I do a lot of speaking as an alumni from college, and it was like, you have a minute, you have time. I was like, well, you actually caught me. I'm not doing anything else but sitting on the bed. But let me put a shirt on or something. I have tight tank tops and so it's
right.
Like, a little presentable before you put your students.
While you were going through COVID, you were speaking to people?
Yeah, but I was asymptomatic. When I travel, I didn't have when I travel normally, my body aches because it's not my own bed. I suffer from chronic migraines. So the headaches, I couldn't tell the difference if I was having one or not. And since I eat, basically raw foods, it was the microwavable foods that I thought was making my tummy upset. So outside of that, I couldn't really tell, but that PCR test kept coming back positive. So I was just like, okay, well, we won't be coming out of this room anytime soon. But, the different variations of COVID is real. I have colleagues who have had it, who have been puking up their poor little guts. And we just have to be really safe. And I understand a lot of people who are stuck at home or quarantining, or it's better safe than sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm glad you were one of the less severe cases. So I'm glad. So and again, I thank you for joining me because I know it's a emotional day for you. Your dad's birthday. Happy heavenly birthday to Uncle Gary.
Thank you.
So I appreciate you for spending your time with us this evening. So Dr. Mo Tucker, how are you?
I am good. I am very appreciative that you.
Oh, it's hard to hear you.
Hear you.
You can't hear me?
You're kind of far away. It's like an echo, like a tunnel echo.
Really low. Yeah.
I don't know if it's my phone.
You were good earlier before we got on with everybody else.
Because I probably wasn't on Facebook.
Oh. You got to turn the other one all the way down.
I did, and that's what I did. Can you hear me different now? No.
I don't know what happened.
Are you doing it through your phone?
Yeah, no, I'm doing this through my computer.
But she added the live. Remember, we were walking us through. She added the live on her phone.
Yes.
Oh, I hope we.
Maybe you can't. I don't know.
Maybe Dr.
Just turn the volume up a little bit. See if that works on your computer. Oh wow.
That's all. You know what? Maybe tap out Dr. Tucker. Maybe do you know how to increase it on the computer? Increase the volume on your computer mic, not the speaker, but the computer mic.
All right, let me just try to do that.
And while you're doing it, let me just answer. I have one question from Danielle Jones Ruffin. Her question is, do therapists need counseling sessions? Yes, Ms. Ruffin, we do.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
So every person,
Yep. And so we'll have to get able, to some Q&A in a little bit. Is that someone on your page?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't. Yeah.
So you all. That's what I was
asked.
going to ask y'all too. If y'all. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we all should. I would hope so, because if you helping other people, I hope someone is helping you.
Right.
So I was going to say, Dr. Tucker, maybe if you could go out and come back in, that might help.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try that. Yeah.
Yep, leave out and then come back in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because it's real low.
Yeah.
Okay.
Am I low also, or can you hear me?
No, you great. We're great.
I'm good. Okay.
Yeah. So Napoleon, thank you. Let's come to you. How are you doing? Napoleon, by the way, has 2 beautiful twin daughters.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! They're so cute. They are so cute. What are they, about 6 months now?
No, Rocki, they are running around the house. They are 15 months.
Wow.
You done missed 9 months. You done missed 9 months.
I done lost some time.
Yes, and I done lost some sleep. So
you never sleep the same, Napoleon. I'm gonna just let you know. You'll never sleep the same. You and Faith will never sleep the same. Just let it go. But how are you doing otherwise, though?
I appreciate the question, and I send my deepest regard to Dr. Aguirre. I can understand being here at this time, and congratulations, Dr. Tucker. I feel like I'm with a whole bunch of power right now, because I got I'm sitting on the shoulders of 2 doctors. That feels really good. But at any rate, how am I doing? Well, outside of being remarkably excited that these 2 little ladies have showed up in my life, 2 to 3 weeks before the shutdown, by the way, 2 to 3 weeks before the shutdown, I'm elated, excited, and fully engaged, and also very tired, because so much of my energy has been dedicated to making sure that they are doing well and they're adjusting well to life and all of that. But also my patient load has increased and has become very demanding. And I appreciate the statement that do we need support or therapy as well? Absolutely, because
that was definitely. And thank you to the Facebook person who was watching who asked that, because that was one of my questions. Now, Dr. Tucker, how we doing? Say something.
Can you guys hear me now?
Much better.
Hey.
I knew it. I put it in my mind. I said, God, it's gonna be good the next time.
Absolutely. Right. I said that clicked out. I was like, okay, Jesus, I'm gonna need you to work this out.
Exactly. We're not exactly. God done handled it. I'll be like, look, God, you know what I need right now. So
absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Make it happen, okay? Thank you. So, Dr. Tucker, and Napoleon, you never sleep the same as a parent. So, and I'm sure, and we will get to that as well, I'm sure you all's patient load has increased during COVID, if nothing else. So that's kind of a good and a bad thing. Business is good, but it's a lot more that you have to deal with as well. So, Dr. Tucker, how are you?
I am good. I am excited to be here amongst greatness. I feel just like you feel, Napoleon, that I am so happy to be here amongst you all. Thank you so much again, Rocki, for inviting me. I've watched your show, and you are doing a phenomenal job at bringing people to the forefront. I know this month is Mental Health Month and Awareness Month, and the fact that you are allowing us to speak about it, because it is such a prominent thing, shows how you appreciate your mental health and understand that it's very important. So kudos to you for even doing this.
Thank you. Yeah, I always, and even last year we did a show during May talking about mental health, and I'll probably pretty much do one every May. And I always mention mental health, even outside of May, because you just, as my background as a social worker has taught me, a lot of issues are related to mental health. A lot of the things that we see on the outside can be traced back to some type of deficiency mentally, whether that be chemically, hereditary, or just from trauma that people have experienced. So I just really feel it's an obligation to put the word out there and to keep talking about things, because I really want to encourage people to talk about this like it's normal, like it's just a normal part of the day, like you cutting your grass, you going to the grocery store, you buying clothes. Okay, yeah, I'm checking in with my therapist. And a lot of people, the misconception, I believe, people think you have to seek a therapist when you have issues, and that's not always the case. That's not always the case. So can you all touch on that? Let's just ask, I just want to start with a straightforward question as far as why should people seek a therapist? Why should they care about their mental health? And I'll start with you, Napoleon, and then we'll work back around.
Mhm.
Well, I think that's a remarkable question because our culture comes from a culture that usually says, let's just give it to Jesus and we're going to be okay. And to some degree, I very much agree with that. You give it to Jesus and you will be okay. But he's going to send you to somebody who's going to help you naturally with the kind of issue or situation that you have, because that's the whole point of having trained professionals to address the situations that come. So the reason why people should seek out therapy is because it works. It's efficient. It's effective. Particularly when you find somebody who matches your interest, your energy, your preferences. We should seek out therapy to help us clarify decisions. Just because you go to therapy, it doesn't mean that you've committed to a life sentence of being in clinical therapy. It just, you don't have to, it's not a life sentence. I have some people who drop in literally once or twice a year. I have others who come every week. I have others who come every 2 weeks. And so the bottom line is some people have high needs and others may have emergent needs. And the reality is therapy helps you on any end of that spectrum. And it's an effective way of increasing your quality of life.
Absolutely. Okay, Dr. Aguirre.
So I want to say that we all need to look at having some form of therapy. There is nothing ashamed, but it's such a stigma, especially for people of color, especially, you know, a lot of Black males, Hispanic males. It's like, oh no, I can't do that. That's you know, that's not in my wheelhouse. But then you find that the ratio of the stress, you know, the abuse levels go up because there's nowhere and there's no one that is taking it upon themselves to go out and have those conversations, you know. And you do have a lot of females as well, ladies that are just like, yeah, I'm good, you know, but then you find them at home screaming at the poor babies who haven't done anything, you know, and they're on edge because of, you know, where they are in their own personal lives. And the poor children haven't done anything, but they're reaping the effects of what the mom and or dad, you know, are going through. And then that's only going to trickle down and become a part of what that system is for that child or those children. You know, so we do need, and it's difficult to tell people, hey, yeah, you do need to seek somebody. It's just you, because you can tell a person that's like looking at a quarter and saying, I need to flip this quarter to see, you know, I like to collect things. So if you want to see what year it is or whatever, but if you stare at it long enough, you're not going to see the whole quarter. You got to flip it to see the whole thing. And people have to understand that in order to see, you know, you can see you're pretty on the outside or you're handsome, but what is really torn up on the inside, you know? And so once you can say you need to, or you should, not until that individual is ready, because they can come sit in your office all day, every month, every week. But until they're ready to absorb and understand that they're there for their own peace of mind and help to work through their issues, it's not going to help.
Yes.
It's simply not going to help them. You know, you have to come in and be ready to do the work. You know, it's not just sitting there talking. We got work for you to do, for you to work through the processes of. So that's my whole thing. It's like, if you come in, I'm just like, okay, are you ready to do the work? Because if you're not ready to do the work, I think that's just you being here.
Absolutely.
So that's how I feel.
And I want to touch on a couple things you all said. Napoleon, when you said find the right one who has the right energy, that's key. A lot of people say, I've been to the therapist and it didn't work. Well, it's just like when you shop around for anything else. You have to shop around for your therapist as well.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, Dr. Aguirre, that point about how we look good on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always said that, like, even if you cute and you got a messed up disposition, nobody wants to deal with you. And that's just the truth. But I've met people who are not physically attractive, but they're so beautiful on the inside that physical
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter. So that is, and that's again why I try to encourage mental health, because people will say, "Oh, you're so cute, your hair's so cute," and I'm like, let me get myself together mentally as well, though. Because I have been one of those parents who's yelling at the kids. Now they did do something, but there have been times where I was just on edge about something else that was not related to them. And then they did something and it just like triggered that. So that's when I've had to reel myself back in and be like, okay, and go back and apologize to them later. Like, okay, let me try to be a little bit more patient. So what about you, Dr. Tucker? Why should people seek therapy and mental health? Why is it important?
It is important. It is just as important as you seek your own physician, right? So here's the thing. Here's my thought process, that we seek a physician. Some of us just go once a year, right, for our annual checkup. Some of us go multiple times, right, just because of how we're feeling, and we just want to check in and make sure everything is okay. It should be the same with mental health. It should be no different. One of the things that you brought up, Napoleon, was very prominent is that it's doctors for all types of things, right? So I don't know why we feel like it's okay when we at the doctor and they say, you know what, we can tell that something is wrong. You might have to seek a specialist for your stomach, or you might need to seek a kidney specialist, or, you know, and when you're seeking those different specialists for the different symptoms that you have, mental is the same thing, right? So I don't know why we don't think that's important that we seek mental health, because it is just, we are specialists in this area. And so I don't, we have, like you said, the stigma comes from way back, our parents, right? Everything we do needs to stay in this house. That was then when we heard that, we didn't know that was a form of suppression, right? And so we start to suppress things as a kid. And as we got older, now we're still doing the same thing. And so like you said, the stigma is here, especially for us as a community, right? We don't need to seek help. You, like you said, you can seek Jesus. But some of us at the same time, like, oh, I know who Jesus is. I have a relationship, but Jesus can't help me in this moment. I need somebody to be able to talk to.
Right. I need therapy and prayer.
Exactly. Right. To say something to me in the moment. I think it's very important that we do understand that we are specialists in our area, and we need it just as well as you need to seek your physical, your primary doctor as well.
Right.
Yep.
Very true.
Absolutely. And it's really interesting to me how people will make so many excuses to avoid it. And it's like, you doing all this other stuff, you getting all these other specialists and stuff for this stuff. So I want to take a moment to say hi to our Facebook audience that's watching. Danielle Jones Ruffin, Walter Bridges. I appreciate your comments. Walter says, I was speaking to a friend about that, about saying they don't need to seek a therapist when something is wrong. I told them it's like talking to God. You should not only go to him when you need help or something, but daily, or need when things are good as well. A lot of that is taught to these cultures, that they don't need to see someone because there's nothing wrong with them. So I asked you, how can we change that perspective, and what tools do you suggest use to guide this conversation? So yep, let's ask that, and then I'm going to come back to your question, Danielle, about the males. But yes, let's answer what Walter is stating. He says, how do we change that perspective, and what tools you suggest to be used to guide the conversation? And anyone who wants to jump in and answer that.
Well, I'll start off, because you have to, become learned on their culture first before you can speak on it. We do have different cultures that we all are surrounded by, but in order for any therapist, male or female, no matter what your race or ethnicity is, you must first, if you're going to take that person on as a client, learn what that person's culture is, and then you're able to help them, because you can't jump into someone's life to help them straighten it out without understanding what their foundation is. So that's one as a therapist. And then once you figure that out, then you help them wiggle around to say, yeah, you do need it because of whatever their situation is, and point out those things and how you as a therapist will be helpful to them, whatever methods you're using, if it's CBT, whatever it is. So you first have to, people have to understand, we too have to do our homework.
Mm-hmm.
We go to school, we get these degrees, but you can't just come plop in my office to have a conversation before I research who you are, what your situation is. We can handle a multiplicity of situations, but I can't just say, oh, yeah, you can come in here and, and handle a population. Let's say if it's violent behaviors, like, rapists and stuff. For me, you have to declare within yourself what population you're not going to deal with. That's a population I don't touch. So someone can say, oh, I was referred to you. I just got out of prison. I deal with that, but I don't deal with people. I don't deal with sexual predators per se.
Sex offenders, yeah.
So yeah, sex offenders, I just don't. And so, but you as a therapist, you have to know who you are and how you're going to handle the populations that you deal with, or that you're going to accept into your office. Let me say that, because everybody that comes into your office is there for you to help them. You can't help somebody that you don't know anything about.
Right.
That you don't know their culture. So learn what that culture, like for me, I'm African American, I'm Hispanic, and I'm Creole. So I was raised on a background of Catholic, but then I became Christian very early on. So when people come in, it depends on how you speak to that person. Now, am I still like a stark Catholic? No, but you don't know that. Get to know who I am, get to know your background. That goes through the questions you ask before you take on that client. That goes through their assessments, everything. So yeah, we do have to find those things out. We can't just, take on clients just because they need help. Like you're telling, when we said we need you to shop around, when you shopping around for us, we shopping you too.
Bet you too.
Because it's like, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't think I can help you, but I can refer you to someone else that I think may be able or better or suitable for you.
Okay.
You have to be honest.
Right.
You really do. Yeah. So that's my answer for that.
So Dr. Tucker, what would you say some tools to use to guide the conversation? Uh-oh, you went out again.
She said, oh my God.
Because we'll let you be great.
All right. There you go.
Well, okay.
Can you hear me now? Yep.
It's a little low, but
I don't know what's happening.
Lord, go back out and come back in again, Lord. While you doing that, we're going to have Napoleon answer.
So if I understand the question, what tools guide the conversation for finding a clinician?
Well, it says, it says a lot is taught that these cultures are taught that they don't need to see someone because there's nothing wrong with them. So how do we change that perspective? What tools do you suggest to guide the conversation?
So if there's nothing wrong, if the statement is there's nothing wrong with you, you don't need no therapist. How do we change that narrative? Basically, right. Got it. Okay, all right. That's what I thought so. Well, I'm a firm believer that either people will or they won't, and if they don't, then there's really nothing you can do until they make up their minds that they are going to do it. Now, we as clinicians, and this is the side that a lot of clinicians don't necessarily like, but we as clinicians are salespeople also. I cannot stand the fact that we have to be salespeople from this particular perspective, that I have to make it attractive for people to mind their health. I have to make it attractive for people to say, what happens in my mind is important and it's necessary for me to pay attention to it. So what I have to do is I have to not become gimmicky, but I have to become very intentional about my messages. If I'm posting something or if I'm sharing something or whatever the case might be, I have to be very intentional about making sure people understand that if there's no mental health, there can be no physical health either. And so, because where the mind goes, the rest of the body follows. And if your mind is absolutely degenerated, then guess what? So is going to be the rest of your behavior. So I say that to say, guiding the conversation, we as clinicians have a responsibility initially. When we're out in public and it's the rest of us and we're guiding the conversation to say people don't need help. One thing I've learned is, I just heard a statement that I'll never forget, and they said, a new broom sweeps, but an old broom knows where to find the dirt. And an old woman said that to me. And here's I think the thing that is important is if we can get significant voices, our elders, people who initially were like, we don't need to, baby, we got Jesus. If they say, baby, we got Jesus, but he's going to say, if you look at scripture, he every single time he healed somebody, he sent them to the priests in order for them to be declared unclean, right? So if they help change the narrative, our elders in our community are the key, in my opinion, to helping to turn the tide. And then the young people, because they will help to carry it. Because if you think about it, the young people now are saying, I'm gonna have a clinician. Shoot, I'm going to therapy. You talk to the 20-somethings, they going to therapy, and they in there. You talk to the 30-somethings, not so much. Talk to some 40 and 50-somethings, they ain't.
Right.
Talk to some 50, 60-somethings, you can forget it, right? But if our 70s, 80s, even 60s, if they're able to kind of help turn the tide for us, they give us permission to get the kind of help and support we need. Because if Big Mama say I can, then I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. So let's hopefully we can get some of our elders on board. Because it is definitely from the top down.
Absolutely.
So Dr. Tucker, how we doing?
You can hear me now. Can you hear me now?
It's real low. Just kind of talk up a little bit. You probably have to.
I can't listen. I've been doing this all day, right? I've had clients all day, and I hadn't had a problem. This is so funny to me that it's all of a sudden you can't hear me.
Just talk a little louder. That's all. We can't hear you. Just talk a little louder.
It's because your message is powerful.
Right. I'll just try to speak. I hope that's what it is. So I'll just try to speak a little louder. Can you just kind of repeat the question so I can get?
We were just saying, what tools would you use to guide people away from that perception that nothing's wrong with them? They don't need to seek therapy. They were asking how do you all pretty much, what tools do you use to convince people that, therapy is essential? How do we change that perspective of that therapy is not needed? Nothing's wrong with you.
Okay, so I am just like what Napoleon is saying. I don't want to use a circus, right? I don't want to have to, make a show, because what happens is that, just if you're coming and we're just having a casual conversation, I might say to you, have you talked to somebody in regards to that, right? And they're like, what do you mean talk to somebody? Do you have a therapist? Right? Because it's the same thing that I would say, going back to what I said earlier, I've had this knee pain for so long and I'm not sure. Have you saw your doctor for that? Right? And so I am going to ask that type of question because I need you to know, just as you're saying, Napoleon, it starts from the head, right? If your mind isn't right, and you hear so many people say that, the elderlies are the first ones that would tell you that you got to get your mind right, girl. If you get your mind right, everything else will fall in place. But like you said, they're not willing to come to therapy, right? And they're not willing to help us understand that as the younger generation, that you have to get your mind. If you get your mind right, your body falls in place, because whatever the mind says, the body will follow. And so I am not into just making, like I said, I have to do a performance to say, okay, you need to come to therapy, and here's why. But I am into saying to you that if you feel like, and that's just where I am, if you feel like you need a primary care physician, then I'm almost positive that you need a therapist. It's the same thing. You need somebody like maintenance, like you said earlier, for your mental health. We have to get there, people, because it is important. That's why we have so many killings out here. That's why so much self-destruction, because we are not together in our mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And you don't know who's on the edge.
Absolutely.
you don't know who's on the edge or how you might set people off or what trauma they've experienced before you came into them. And it might not be something you do, but just something that's inside of them that they're struggling with. So I want to go back to when Dr. Aguirre was saying about, in a way, vetting your patients. And this is something I asked. And shout out to Dr. Rose Moulton. She's also a psychologist here in Detroit. Yeah. You know, Dr. Rose, Napoleon, and Dr. Tucker. So she's also a therapist here in Detroit. And I asked her the other week, how do you know when it's time to cut it with a client? Like, how do you vet them? What is the process that you go through when a client comes to you? And that's a question that Walter Bridges was asking, you know, how do you know, what steps do you take to learn your client? How do you know it's going to be a good fit? So Dr. Tucker, I'll start with you.
So for me, it's an assessment. Just as Dr. Mo was saying earlier, I assess my clients just like your, like I said, back to your primary care physician. He's going to assess the problem, right? So I am going to assess you, and like you saying, what's your ethnicity, what's the symptoms you're having, what you think you need to come in for, what you're expecting from therapy. And so I am going to have these conversations with you. And then I always tell my clients, we'll have 3 sessions. If you don't feel like I'm a great fit after 3 sessions, because I always tell them that the one thing is I am happy that you decided to come to therapy. And because you took that big step, I want to make sure that you are getting what you need, right? So don't think about me feeling bad. I'm not a great fit for you. I'm not thinking any of that. What I am going to do is try to get you to a therapist because you made the initial step to come. So how do I know that you're a great fit? When we start to gain a relationship, sometimes even after the first session, right? They'll say, you know what? I really like your style. For me, I call myself a confrontational therapist. Not that we're going to be butting heads, but I am going to confront your stuff, right? Awesome. So I often tell my clients that you're not going to like me sometimes, but it's necessary. Right. And so in that conversation, they're like, okay, you know, some of them need that. And some of them like, that might not be for me. And that's fine. I need you to find what's the fit for you. And how do I, if it's not a great fit for me, I'll tell the client, just like you saying, Dr. Mo, you know what? I know that you have some issues in this area, but I don't specialize in this. Just as I'm saying, if I'm a kidney doctor, you come to me with a foot problem, I am going to refer you to a podiatrist. I am not going to say, oh, I can handle this, because that's not my area, right? And so we have to be okay with that as clinicians, that every person that walks in your office is not going to be a great fit. You are not a specialist in every area. Nobody is, right? That's why we pick and choose the areas that we are, right? And we don't have to feel bad. Like you were saying, I don't take on sexual predators, and that's fine. That's not your area. It doesn't make you a bad therapist. It just means that you know where you are equipped to handle your clients. And so for me, that's where I draw the line. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have to refer you to somebody because that's not my area.
Yeah. You want to add to that, Dr. Aguirre?
No, I mean, she really summed it up. Dr. Tucker summed that up, because it is more so of knowing who you want to, you know, when we're vetting, it's like you already know in your head, you know, you might color outside the lines a little bit, but you're not going to color the whole book, because you know what you're good at and you know what tools you already use for certain things. You know, for certain diagnoses. So you're not that really is going to hinder the client as well as you as a therapist.
Right.
You know, so you want to, one, make sure that they are getting what they need, as Dr. Tucker said, as well as you being the provider and being strong enough to handle what they're doing. Because if, like she's saying, if you going, you know, for having a baby and you go see a podiatrist, that's a whole different part of the body.
Absolutely.
You know, so you have to be able to understand the processes of the diagnosis in order to handle what it is. And then in order to give that client the proper tools. So basically, and it's not, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I want you to get what you need. Right. You know, and if I know right here, you're not going to get it here. I'm going to happily say, I'm sorry. I'm not good for you. You know, I believe you need to see someone else. Yeah.
We need to take the ego. Let's take the ego out of it, because we have to know our lane.
Like, but you have to realize it's a lot of therapists out here. I have a colleague here. He sees nothing but young men or men, period. And that's because that's his focus. He wants to see our young men grow up and, you know, go forward in a successful, positive way. So me referring, you know, some young women or a woman to him, he'd be like calling me, what are you doing?
Right.
You know, because this is not my lane.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
So
right.
you got
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah, you want to add to Napoleon? Yeah.
Just real quick, I don't think Dr. Tucker has a mic problem. She just got to feel that thing, and once she starts feeling it, that is not a microphone problem.
Right.
I noticed that too. Like that passion was coming through. Like,
like, let me turn this down real quick. No, to kind of answer the question, and I'll be as brief as I can. Like, when people come in, one of the first things I try to remind them is I'm working myself out of a situation. I don't want you addicted to therapy. I don't want you to be there for the long haul. I want you to be there for as significant amount of time as you need to be for the amount of things that you need to address. So how do we know it's a good fit? Like everybody's saying, if it fits my purview, my training and my experience, and I will go color outside the lines a little bit, but like Dr. Aguirre said, not the whole book, because sometimes I do need to be stretched because that might be a group that I can work with and didn't realize it because I did not know. I got into the game to work with young African-American men to do just what Dr. Aguirre's colleague is. And that is not who comes to see me, not at all. And what I found is my skill set seems to be working very well with certain diagnoses, single mothers who, by the way, I come from a single mother. So I'm in tune to a lot of the needs, and I guess I must have paid more attention than I expected to. And so with all that said, as long as I fit their purview and as long as they understand, there are goals that we have here. There are targets. My big question usually after the first appointment is, I need to know you're going to tell me when therapy's over.
And that was a question someone asked. How do you know when it's over? Okay.
Well, I tell them in the first session, what are you going to sound like? What are you going to look like? What kind of things will you be able to do then that you can't do now? Because those are the things that I'm going to be looking for along the way while we're working together. And I'm going to say, yep, she took care of that. Oh, yep, he did this already. And then eventually we show them the information that they got and then go from there. Last thing, Dr. Tucker brought it up, assessments. My opinions are very cool. I think I'm pretty smart, but the assessments don't really lie. So the assessments give me all the information that I need, and it gives it out objectively. And so with that objective information, we know when to invite people in and say, yes, we got this, because you might tell me you're one way, but the assessment says you are another way. So the assessments, and then the way I interpret the assessments. So those are the kind of pieces to that puzzle for me.
And I just want to say, therapy is not it's not a finite thing. For me, it's infinite. It's going to go on and on. Like, I've been in therapy off and on for like 11 years. So it's like, it wasn't consistent. So that's the thing. Like, I will hop out and hop back in. But it's also important, I believe, when you feel like you've reached a plateau, sometimes you got to switch up therapists. Because I just switched up my therapist because I felt like my prior therapist, she knew me, but she wasn't challenging me enough. I wasn't really, I didn't feel like I was that, I was really, making headway with her. Yeah. So, and she was great, but I just felt like, I've reached a different level. So I need to have someone else. So I encourage people also to know that therapy is not just always 6 months, always 2 years. When I worked with my clients in foster care, I always used to try to refer them to a therapist that could be with them after I closed my case. Because my thing is, therapy is ongoing. You're going, even after I'm out of the case, you're going to need someone else to continue with you. So therapy is an ongoing thing, and definitely finding that right fit. So, and I appreciate all the questions
that are coming in. So Walter reminded me of a question I wanted to ask. He said, what makes you passionate about being a therapist? And what is your overall goal that you want to have as far as impact with your customer? So I wanted that's partly what I wanted to ask each of you. Describe the moment when you knew you wanted to be a therapist, that you knew that was your purpose and calling. Because obviously it's a passion for each of you. So just describe that moment. And Dr. Aguirre is looking like, Well, I know for me, it's been several moments throughout my life where I knew I wanted to do media and writing and all of that. But there are definitely some definitive moments for me where I was like, okay, this is my calling. This is my passion. So I'll start with Dr. Aguirre.
Well, for me,
you know what? Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't me. It was not me. It was the fact that me already being a public speaker, I always had lines of people who wanted to talk, and I wanted to invest so much time in each person, you know. And a good friend of mine at the time, Mrs. D. Shannon Whitley, she said, you need to go into, look into psychology and be a counselor. I said, what? She was like, you always spend so much time with people, you know, this is what you need to do. So I kind of looked into it and I was like, oh, maybe I should do this. And that's how it wasn't like an epiphany. I was like, oh, well, my next stop, you know, is going to get a degree in psychology. That was not my next stop. You know, and so I realized that it was a way to help people because I was already doing it. And, you know, and that was part of when I was speaking in places that I would have, you know, literally a line that people just waiting to talk to me. And so that's when she, you know, she brought it to light, not me. And so that's how I became, you know, a therapist. That's what, but then, when I decided, you know, I'm A-type, so I decided to move on up the ladder. And I originally started at the School of Psychology in Chicago. You know, I packed up everything, my house, everything, and moved to Chicago with my dad and went to the School of Psychology for international psych. Because I thought, you know, I wanted to go away and do some work and help some people. But then, unfortunately, they lied and was not fully accredited. So after going through that whole year of nonsense, a good friend who is now a mentor to me, he was like, you've been in, you know, in the medical field basically all your life because of my mom. Why don't you look into doing public health with a concentration on, you know, mental health? So bing, 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 there I am. And so that's, you know, what I do. Okay. And I enjoy, you know, breaking the barriers down and breaking the stigmas down and helping people overcome. Because one thing I tell people all the time is that we all are purposed. Everybody's purposed. Yeah. And I just told my godson this on Friday night. You are purposed. And he looked at me like, how did you figure that? I figured that because there were so many sperm that were trying to make it on up there. You were strong enough to make it through. So God has a purpose for you. Obviously. So so you need to work on that purpose. Yeah. You know, don't think that you're not. So we're going to get through all the other clutter, just keeping your mind that you're purpose, and we're going to work it out. Yeah. And that's so, you know, and that's what you have to continuously tell people. Yeah. It's a reason you're here. There is a purpose. There's some great things that you have to, that obviously God wants you to accomplish. I've told Ben that because I'm like, you were in a car accident. You had a stroke. Obviously God wants you here to do something. So it's obviously some more work for you to do. So what about you, Dr. Tucker? What was it a moment for you? Like, what led you to be a therapist?
So for me, you know how I usually tell people when they say I don't have I don't know what my purpose is. You know, a lot of people say that. What I found over the years is that I've been doing this all my life. I didn't know I was doing. You remember we had the hotline thing, right? And I would always be joking, like, I got a hotline. People just keep calling me, asking me stuff, right? And so I will always be able, like you said, Dr. Mo, like to talk to people, and I would engage. I would take my time with them. And I didn't know that this was a calling for me. I didn't know that this was a purpose for me. I was just doing it because I liked it. And it was funny that you mentioned the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. So I was in the IP program of as well for organizational psych, right? So
okay.
Your residency, we went to South Africa, and there we were helping to assess the people with the trauma from the apartheid. And in doing so, that's when it pinged for me. Oh, I want to do one-on-one therapy, because those people there inspired me so that we think we don't have anything over here. They have
nothing,
very minimum, and and the way they think is it was so inspiring for me, and all the trauma that they went through. And I was like, this is what I want to do: change people's mindset. Right. If I can get them to change the way they think, then I can get them to change who and what they do, right? What their behaviors are, how their actions will become a different person just by changing your mindset. And so that was the thing for right there. When I came back, I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. And so then I went to the Michigan School of Professional Psychology, and that's where I got my clinical degree from. But that was the defining moment for me. And as you said, Napoleon, for me, this is a passion. I love it, right? I tell my clients all the time, this is not work for me. This is something I do. This is something that I love. And when it becomes, I know you heard people say, when you do something you love, you don't work anymore. So right now I'm living a dream of not working anymore. But that was the defining moment for me.
Okay, wait, I'm sorry. I just have a sidebar. Let me what year were you there? I told you it's going to click in a minute.
It was 2010. I think I started over there.
It had to be 11, because that's when the program started.
So maybe it was 11 then.
That's where I know you from.
Okay, maybe so.
See, I'm good. I was like, I'm gonna figure this out. Out. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I knew it was something, because this world's so small. It's so small, and Chicago and Detroit, we cousins.
Right. That's right. Right. Yeah, right. Absolutely.
I love it. Okay, good. Okay, so Napoleon, what was that moment for you? Because Napoleon, you have to know you're a rarity, right? Like men who are therapists, like just like teachers who are men, is a rarity. So what for you made you be like, okay, I'm gonna be a therapist?
Well, first of all, it was kind of cool to watch that happen. Their screens are below mine, so I'm watching them like, I'm gonna figure this out. So that was cool to see that happen. And then also, just wanted to reiterate a point: it is not a microphone problem. Anyway, so but for me, I'm a middle kid. I come from a family. Come from a single parent family. I'm the middle kid. And so the middle kid is always the one that's in between the two, the oldest and the youngest, sometimes mitigating conversations, sometimes covering for the other person, sometimes holding on to secrets, and all of that. So by virtue of middle kidness, I think that's a part of the reason I'm here. But I think one of the core reasons that I didn't realize, there was never this moment where I was like, I'm a clinician. I don't think anyway. But I do know that I've always been very, very curious about human behavior, and for the primary reason of I never understood why or how a man in a family could produce children, me, and not come back to ask about them or find out how their well-being is. And I think instead of I was simultaneously sad, I'm sure, but I think I was more curious as to why that could be the case. So of course I go on this journey of like trying to understand behavior and at the same time trying to remedy the kinds of pains that people felt. And so initially I wasn't going into counseling. I didn't walk the road to Damascus and get struck down. I literally was going to school for human resource development, and I love doing trainings and things like that. And I was going to do trainings for the big three, and then I just felt the nudge to go to the counseling realm. And my mom was very intentional about using her like those idioms and those quotes. And she would always say that there are some things that we choose and there are some things that choose us.
Yeah.
And counseling chose me, and I think somewhere along the way I chose it back. And we have a really good relationship now. And so I think that's why I'm here and how I'm here.
Okay. So I just want to ask you all, and I'm gonna shift a little bit because I want to get into talking about our children specifically and how they are affected by what's going on around them. But I want to first ask you all, how do you all not psychologize or perform therapy on your family members? Like with your wife, Napoleon, with your husband, Dr. Tucker, with your friends and family, Dr. Aguirre, how do you not get into that psychological and therapy talk when you are in conversation with your family or friends?
I'm out.
Yeah, you just have to learn how to cut it.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this. I'm gonna get in trouble.
So you just gotta.
Me, I usually just say, I'm not at work right now. I have to tell myself that. That's how I usually. I am not at work right now. I cannot. Like when they just start to do stuff like you are not at work, you know, and it's a self-talk technique, and I use it on myself all the time. Right. You're not at work. It has nothing to do with you right now. You are not working, and so I have to tell myself that often. So that's kind of how I get out of it.
Okay. Right. But you got to remind yourself, right. Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. What about you, Dr. Aguirre?
It's the truth. I mean, you can't mess with family and friends. It's like, find you somebody else to talk to. You know, I can talk to you on the surface about regular girlfriend stuff or friend stuff, but when we start getting down to the nitty gritty, okay, yeah, I'm not here for that.
Yeah.
I can't, you know, you have to respect, your profession and your ethics, you know, and that's a code of ethics that you can't cross. You know, you can't, you know, be treating your family and friends. That's the no part of the book. You know, and so as Dr. Tucker says, I'm not at work for you. So sorry, let's keep it moving. Next. That's not a grocery list. That's a whole different, you know, that's a whole different situation. So yeah, you and like, you know, Napoleon said, I'm out. Next.
So Napoleon, did you say that because you have to stop yourself from doing that to your wife at times, or with or your friends or your boys? Because especially like with men, do you feel like, man, I gotta kind of help my bros out here, you know?
It's such a tight spot when it comes to like, when I know somebody is reluctant to therapy and I know I can slide in one or two techniques. That's all I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna do one or two things. I will not lie and say that I don't do it at all and draw a hard line. So, because from time to time I do scaling techniques with some of my friends, and they go, "Oh man, I never thought about it like that." And then I try to back away. But I think the reality is you have to have a person present that helps to snap you back to reality when you find yourself in the therapeutic realm. I love my work. I love the people that I do it with. This is the only profession that if you want to hug everybody, this is the only profession that you can do it with words. Like I have found, and it's my ongoing mission, because I can't touch them. I want to make them feel like they are being embraced by what I'm saying, my presence, my empathy. I want them to feel it. So it's hard sometimes to disconnect from that, because if you're throwing yourself into it, then what happens a lot of times it's hard to depersonalize from it. When I was working in the office more regularly, it was easier to do that, because my ride home, whatever artist I was listening to did a very good job of pulling me out of the gates. If it was Christian gospel music, they did a good job. If it was Pac, Kanye, or Kendrick Lamar, they did a very good job of pulling me away from it. But now that I'm working at home on, this way digitally, it is so hard, because at breaks, I'll run up and go, I'll run up the flight of stairs and go hug the girls, or have a conversation with my wife about stuff that we need to talk about. And so doing it from the pandemic perspective, I got some work to do, and eventually I'll be back in the office probably within the next few weeks or months here. But it is definitely difficult to do. My wife just tells me I don't ever have that problem, because she just usually tells me I ain't your patient, and then
okay,
and she don't use ain't. So when she uses ain't, it's like a cuss word.
Okay,
so
right.
I just
it's hard though when it's hard to switch off, because with me being a writer and editor, when people say certain stuff or they write certain things, it's hard for me not to correct it. People know, don't text me with the text talk. Don't text me with the small I. Just this morning, Ben had commented on somebody's status and I corrected. I was like, "Boo, you meant to use this form of the word." And he looked at me like, "If you don't stop," he's like, "Can I just comment without you checking what I'm writing?" So it is hard to switch that off.
I wanted to
go ahead, Dr. Tucker.
I wanted to say that when I say that I'm not at work, because it is certain situations that I'm not going to get in. However, I do have friends that may call and they may want to talk, and like you said, Napoleon, they need somebody to be the voice of reason. And I know, like I said, I've been doing this for a long time. So yes, I will do that, because I do understand that sometimes you need somebody to talk you off the ledge. So I'm getting ready to go over here with your cousin and do some crazy stuff right now, and I needed to call you. So I'm not going to be at that time like, no, I'm not working for, I'm not.
Right.
So I'm definitely going to be able to say, okay, so let's talk about this. What's happening, And so, because I understand that if they're calling me, then they feel like I'm the voice of reason, right? And so if that's the case, then I know, like you're saying, I can give you a hug with my words. I can make you feel like your feelings are valid. However, I need to transform the way you're thinking so you can change the behavior before you end up somewhere, and then you're going to need bail money. So before you get there,
because
person. So I've done that a whole lot of times.
That be me, like with the anger, like, oh, it happened.
Yeah.
I'll be blacking out. Like,
that's like, but that's still assessing. You have to assess that conversation on a friendship level.
Absolutely.
Those are times when you really have to assess those. When people are just calling, I would just say to have a free session, and they know they calling for that. That is, seriously, you're laughing, Rocki, but it's the truth.
It is.
No, because I've done it.
Yeah,
I'm laughing because I've done it to my friends who are therapists. Like, right quick.
Right.
Aside
from somebody like really being in a situation.
Yeah.
What you do is you send them an invoice.
And I was getting ready to say, my friends be like, "I'm a cash app you, okay?"
Right. Me too.
I love you.
God, buy me some coffee or something, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna send you an invoice.
Right. I want to welcome Chanel, Denise. You said what, Napoleon?
I said Blue Cross ain't paying for this.
That's right.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Chanel.
No, that's right. Hey, Chanel, you might want to wipe off your lens a little bit. It's a little cloudy. Just wipe it off just a little bit.
I think that's her son coming in a little bit too.
Oh, okay. Probably.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yep, it is.
Yeah, the sun is setting here. So welcome, Chanel, Denise.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Rocki, for having me.
You're welcome. So, of course, I have to first say, this is my fellow CT94, Cass Tech, second to none. And once again, I just love how things come full circle, how we reconnect with people. Like Chanel and I didn't hang out at Cass. We didn't hang out in the same crowds, but I love how now as grown-ups, we've come together and we can assist each other. So yes. Chanel Denise is a published author, performance coach, life strategist, speaker, and an industrial and organizational psychologist. Oh, I'm getting tongue-tied. But she wrote a book called You Are Invited to Show Up, which is essentials for your mentals. So pretty much it is a journal and a guide that pretty much invite you to get your life together, to embrace your purpose, to stop making excuses, Chanel, I was reading through and I was like, oh, she need to get out of my business. Ooh. You know, you be reading like, oh, why they talking to me? Why are you talking to me like that? So, Chanel, I was definitely welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, as you're joining us, we're having our conversation about mental health, and when we're talking about tools, I know for me, reading and journaling has definitely been an essential tool for my mental health.
Yes.
Because and that's part of why I love social media at times, because it's a way to you can write and read. So it's just one of those things that I've always loved to do. But journaling is like, I've got literally about 35 journals. It's ridiculous.
Me too.
Right. And so I have a journal, like it is so crazy. And sometimes I go back and reread my journals too, to be like, oh, this is where I was this year. Okay. Because you have to remind yourself too how far you've come. And I'm sure as therapists, you all can relate. You have to remind, and coaches, you have to remind people of how far they come, because a lot of times people don't realize the work that they've done or how they were when they came to you. So welcome, Chanel, and tell us about You Are Invited to Show Up, which was 10 years in the making.
Yeah.
By the way, she's like,
eight years. It was long enough, but it was 8 years in the making.
Okay. 8 years.
Close enough when you round up.
But I'm glad you did it. So it came when it was supposed to. It came when it was supposed to. So go ahead and tell us about You're Invited to Show Up.
Absolutely. So anyway, thank you. Hello to everyone.
Hi.
You all have been having a great discussion. I've been thoroughly enjoying it. And I just really commend all of you all for being and doing what you do, because it's so important. And I knew very early on when I was getting my bachelor's in business and psychology that I could not do what you do. The patience I learned, again, knowing yourself, I learned very early on that I just didn't have the patience for that study, but I knew that I wanted to still work on human behavior and took it in a different direction, because I like to have like an end goal and but that's me knowing myself. So I just want to just say I appreciate you all and thank you all for doing what you do, especially for those out there. But You're Invited to Show Up. It was 8 years in the making, and it was one of those things. It was a God-given assignment, and when I got it in 2012, like I said, I'm kind of as we all are, but I was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna finish this in a year, and thought I was gonna be able to check it off my list, and I found that wasn't happening. I was getting very frustrated with that not happening, and then I learned that as time was going on, I was still working on it, but as time was going on, I learned, oh, it's me. I got to keep showing up. And as I keep showing up year after year, month after month, then I'm able to take all of my experiences and pour them into this book. And it's for others to be able to see and understand and be able to do the same. You all know you can't. I'm a person that leads by example. I teach by example. I coach by example. And I can't really tell you to do something that I don't really have a firsthand experience with. Again, I haven't experienced everything, but I've had trauma. I've had a lot, pain and just different situations, but a lot of success too. So I learned, okay, it's going to come out at the time. But anyway, it is a 30-day self-guided. It's a self-help book. As Rocki, as you stated, what I do is I challenge you every day to do something. And then the reality is I understand that you are not going to conquer that thing in that day. So really what I'm doing is I'm establishing the framework. So, I talk, for example, a chapter in there is on forgiveness. I understand that forgiveness is a process, right? But I still need to bring the awareness to the people. Okay, you have to forgive. It's actually the second chapter. You can't conquer all these other things. You can't continue to show up. You can't continue to be your most authentic self if you don't get over that piece first. And so I understand, though, that is a process. It might take you a week. It might take you 30 days. But I at least want to put it into the mindsets that that's something you have to do. And so that's really what the basis and the foundation of the book. It's a lot of, I'm into mindset adjustment, elevating mindsets, behavioral changes, and self-reflection. You all were talking earlier, and I just love it, like doing the work. We can't get anywhere if you're not willing to do the work. And that's really what I'm encouraging people to do in this book.
Great. And so forgiveness of yourself or of others?
Both. Okay.
Because
we find ourselves, again, see, I was my first client, right? And I have very high expectations of myself. I challenge myself when I found myself in situations. How did I get here? How do I get out of this? And what am I going to do on the way out? And make sure I never get back in this situation again. And then I had to forgive myself. Like, and you'll keep beating yourself up, and you can't move forward. You'll stay stuck if you do that. So it's like, okay, I have to forgive myself, you know, and then forgiving others that may never apologize. They may never apologize, but you have to get in a position, in a place where you forgive them so you can move forward.
Yeah. Regardless if they apologize or not.
Exactly.
Yeah. Your cleansing comes from forgiving them.
Absolutely.
You know, if they never apologize, your cleansing is because you accepted that you apologize to them. They may have never apologized to you.
They may never apologize.
Never, you know, but as long as
they're gone on with their life.
Right.
Like nothing has happened.
Closure. Yeah, that's why we say closure is a scam. Because it's like you're not always going to get the resolution that you're looking for, and people might not get the resolution that they're looking for. I was trying to find Robin, if you could click on, I don't know if we could click on at the top if there's a tab for the book.
Yes.
Chanel
shop.
Okay, shop. Okay, click there. I just wanted people to get a visual of the book. That's so right. Like, because people be seeking closure, and it's like it's not gonna happen. I just want them to. You're not gonna always get what you're looking for, so you have to still find peace in yourself, and learn that peace is not gonna be connected to other people.
Absolutely.
A lot of times, it's not gonna happen. So there's the book.
Yeah.
And so it's a couple quotes that kind of stood out to me. Chanel, I was like, ooh. So the one, it says, knowing and embracing something are not the same.
They're not.
So it's like, you know what you need to do, but it's a difference between embracing it. So elaborate on that a little bit.
So I feel like, again, you know what you need to do, right? So I knew, going back to you even talking about journaling, I've been writing for a very long time. It was healing for me. I'm a product, as a lot of people are, of a divorced family. My father was addicted to drugs, which was the cause of the divorce, right? And it was when I was beginning high school. So it was right at the very time that I really needed my father the most, I felt as though, right? And I'm navigating through all of this. My mother did the best she could do. She's an amazing, dynamic person. I talk about her in the book, and the things that she chose to do is why me and my sisters were able to continue to move forward. And so I knew I would write. And then I used to write poems, and I always said to myself, I'm going to be a world-renowned published author one day, right? And I was writing poems, and it was poems that I felt like should have been in substance abuse. I was going to therapy. My mother put us in therapy, and I was in groups with other children that, you know, parents were substance abusers. And so I wrote poems. Then I got to a point when I was in undergrad, and I would write, like, you know, stuff for cards, you know, and like greeting cards, but I never launched any of that, right? And I knew I would speak, but I didn't have the confidence back then. So my point is, I knew that I was supposed to do this and didn't know when, but I just wasn't embracing it. Once you get to the point of embracing it, then you own it, and it looks different then. There's a difference between that knowing and embracing. Embracing causes action, it forces you to put some action behind this thing, whatever it is that you're embracing. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and another one that I love, embrace the interruptions as though they happened for you and not to you.
Yeah.
And that's something a lot of us struggle with. Well, I know I struggle with at times. Like, why is this? I got something to do. I got to get this accomplished. This is messing me up. And then realizing sometimes it's not denial, it's delay a lot of times.
Absolutely.
So, and I don't know if you are Dr. Aguirre, Dr. Tucker, and Napoleon, if you all can touch on this, how I'm sure your clients sometimes, it's like we all have this sense of urgency a lot of times, you know, and that's part of why the pandemic, I think, came about. That's my theory, that God was like, look, y'all need to sit your asses down somewhere. Everybody has a sense of urgency. So, and that's something that I've had to learn at times, that sometimes when an interruption happens or a detour, it's happening for you, not to you. And it's a mental thing too, where we have to really change our thought process on it. Because if we're thinking like, oh, this is happening to me, I'm mad, I'm frustrated. Now we get distracted away from the goal of where you need to go, instead of figuring out, okay, even though this is a detour, how do I figure out still how to get to my end goal?
And what am I learning during this detour that's happening? I see God in everything. And so it's like, okay, you know, he didn't cause this, you know, for this isn't something that he wanted me to go through, but I'm here now. And I think the perspectives are huge. Perspectives to me keep you out of a lot of places, understanding again, the mental piece of it, but it keeps you out of going into depression. I'm talking about someone that doesn't actually not medically, you know, diagnosed with that, but it keeps you out of that. So looking at why did this happen and what can I learn in this moment? Because this is here for me, and it's something that I'm supposed to gain from this detour. So that's and then embrace that, and then take whatever you're supposed to take from that and carry it on. Because you're gonna get out of that place, but you have to choose to get out of that place.
Right.
You said something really important, and that was God did not cause it. But the actuality of it is that he didn't cause it, but people have to look at it that he didn't cause it, but he allowed it. Nothing can happen without him allowing it. So the question is, okay, God, why did you allow this to happen? And then let me reflect on my situation to see why I'm in this situation, because he allowed it to happen. For what lessons am I going to learn while I'm in it? And as I'm trying to maneuver out of it.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. I love that thought, because the reality is, when I don't get what I want, experience is what I got. And that's a very it's purposeful. And interruptions, they just ought to be embraced, because if you look back at the book, I mean, we brought him in the room, so we got to talk about him. Literally, the trip to Canaan was 40 days. It took them 40 years.
40 years.
It was full of interruptions. And I mean, they were designed for us to have a bigger book, or they were some real purposeful information that was steeped in there. And I think that if we're able to slow down long enough, there's a guy by the name of Cal Newport who wrote a book called Deep Work. And this book is designed completely about taking the time to slow down and think thoughtfully about what's happening in your life. Be very present, mindfully present about what surveying the land and what it is that you have and what you need to do. I think that kind of concept is one that we all could really benefit from. And the last thing I wanted to say is I wanted to congratulate Chanel out of for what she's done, because I mean, think about the story she told was one that was loaded with pain, right? And she undersold her pain, but what she did is she took that pain and turned it into something purposeful. And that purpose now does not just help her, it helps all these people who feel purposeless. Now they've got, look, she didn't just help them one day, she's helping them for 30 straight. So I just think it's amazing that kind of thing. That's what comes out of being able to be present for your process.
Yes.
Be present for your process. Love it.
And therapy slows you down enough. If you can't do it on your own, therapy does it enough to get you present so that you can go, oh, wait a second. So that's what happened. Oh, maybe I can do this, or oh, so I can reword that and it changes my life. So, yeah.
It's I think. No, I'm sorry. No, I was just saying Napoleon made a really good point, because you have to be present, you know, in your process, you know, because if the process is continuing on without you being present, what's the purpose?
Right. Are you paying attention? Are you right? Are we just going through the motions? And Dr. Tucker, did you want to? Oh, I was going to ask Dr. Tucker wanted to add something to it.
I want to just first I want to go back to stigma, right? And so I like Chanel that the quote that you gave, in a way that we always think something is done to us, right? That's the stigma that we have on ourselves, right? As Black people, you have done something to me, right? And so what I've learned, like you said, I was my first client. What I've learned for myself is that things that happen to you is not for your detriment, but for your development, right? Absolutely. So when we talk about the, you know, about the word and how things has happened for different people and prominent in the Bible, Moses, like you said, and the people of Israel, it was not for their detriment, it was for their development. You had to go through it in order to get to where you need to it. Right? And so that's part of our purpose, but we don't want the process, right? Nobody wants the process. Nobody wants to go through, you know, everybody wants it to be a happy time all the time. And I tell people, happiness means something is happening. The joy is what you need to try to find, is a thing that's inside of you, right? And only way that you find that is to understand that has to be developed. It has to be something that comes from within. And so that I said, I like the theory that you have behind that, but I'm always preaching that it's not for your detriment. You have to understand that the things that we went through in our life that we thought were so bad, look where we are right now. And had we not went through what we went through, we might not be sitting here talking to each other, right?
Hello.
Where we thought back then and it was a bad thing. Now I'm praising him for it. Like, thank you for all the bad times that I had, because I understand that I had to go through those things in order to get here. So now I can help your people, right? I can deliver them if I'm not delivering myself. And
Bell, I need a bell. We need a bell. I need to get me a bell, okay? We have a touch up here tonight.
Rocki, I told you Pastor Tucker didn't have Dr. Tucker didn't have a mic problem.
All right. Doing it.
Book. It's called
It's All True.
Proverbs. The book is from Pink Proverbs collection. It is Wisdom is My Sister and Understanding is My Intimate Friend. And that is Proverbs 7:4. Because without wisdom and understanding, we can't have anything. And so it's a devotional. And just as you're saying, Denise, it challenges you when you're reading. I'm asking questions about the different scriptures and where God is coming from. Solomon is coming from in the Proverbs. Like, why are we doing certain things? It challenged your behavior. It challenged the way you think.
Right.
Perception is everything. So if you go to pinkproverbs.com, you will be able to pull it up and you will be able to buy it right online. But yes, like what you're saying, we have to do the work though, people. We have to stop getting in the way of our own selves. Oh my God, why is this? It's happening because it needs to. It is that needs to happen, that needs to be developed. It's not happening because God is an all bad God. Like you're saying, he allowed this. Why would he allow this? Because he needs to strengthen you. He needs to be able to use you. And if you can't go through this, I can't use you over here.
Come on.
Uncomfortable. Gotta make you uncomfortable sometimes.
That's right. You got to be uncomfortable to move and to grow.
So so my last quote that I want to get to. Preparation does not mean perfection. And this is something I get caught up in, Chanel, because I'm an OCD type A personality. It needs to be right. So preparation does not mean perfection. Preparation does not mean analysis, paralysis. Preparation is mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, spiritually practicing to present yourself as your best self.
Yes.
I was like, ooh, she talking to me again.
I've been getting that so much. It's been so crazy. Like, get out of my business, get off my toes. I understand that. Ooh. But I find I'm very similar. Again, remember I said I've done this work myself. And it's like you just you keep delaying things on purpose. You're delaying it on purpose because you want it to be perfect. And it's never going to be perfect. And so you have to start. I've been in the corporate industry for 21 years. And so, and that's what I do. I apply these psychological theories and principles to the workplace. And I do coaching and consulting on this, on the side. And people are always, I've learned, they do not move forward because they feel like it has to be perfect. Right. And as long as you are just taking one step at a time and continue to be very diligent and deliberate in your decision making and your thought process and focus. Again, I was bringing up earlier, you talk about being present. That's chapter 23 in there. I talk about being present and staying present. You have to do that. And that helps you in your preparation. There's so many things that you can do to prepare yourself, but you have to start. You have to go. You can't just sit here forever waiting for the perfect moment. And we all know, for those that are parents, just like they say, you know, you want to plan it out when you're going to have a child, and this, you can plan it as much as you, but guess what? You can't, you're not prepared for everything that's coming along the way.
No.
So there's never ever really the right time is for you to just move forward though.
Yep. You got to start somewhere. And that's definitely, I think, something, it's like a dichotomy for me, because I'm someone who is impulsive and I'm like, let's go, go, go. But then at times I'm like, okay, wait a minute, maybe I should do it this way or do it that way. So a lot of times I tell people, I'm talking to myself too, when I'm saying certain things, but I definitely believe in moving forward, do something, just even if it's the wrong move, at least you learn what to do differently next time.
Yes.
So I think a lot of us a lot of dreams could have been realized if people just, as you said, did not have the analysis paralysis, because you don't know how it's going to look.
Right.
I remember, and I go back to this story, Robin chuckled before I started, right before I started the podcast. It was like 2 weeks before I was to go live. And I was like, I don't know if I could do this, Robin. And so she replied to my text. She was like, what, you can't talk? So she like, you got this. Don't be, because I was sitting there like just overthinking it, like, oh, what should I do here? What's gonna happen here? Then she was like, look, let's just, come on. It's going. Let's keep going forward. So, and I appreciate everyone who's encouraged me, because here we go, 4 years later. And it's just like, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna have enough topics to talk about, but here we go. We still going 4 years later, and it's still things to talk about. So,
Rocki, your gift makes room for you. And you know, it just makes room for you, and the doors continue to open as you continue to, it expands. You know, you hit this topic, which opened the door for another topic, and that's even tonight, everyone on here, you know, there's a connection here and there, and it just continues to grow. Ideas continue to flourish, and that's just what happens. So it's getting out of that fear, you know, and we have to learn. It's hard to do, but we have to learn to come from that place of fear and really trust the assignment, trust who gave us the assignment, and be able to just move beyond all of that fear.
And it might not always look the way you think it's going to look, though, too. That's something I had to learn too. It might not look the way you think it's supposed to look, because actually it's probably going to look better than what you thought it was.
Will.
God, like, okay, yeah, you thought you were doing something, but I'm going to take this and just expand it and make it so much different. So Robert, go ahead, Napoleon.
Just real quick, I was going to say that to that point of perfection, Aristotle said pleasure puts perfection in the job. Pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work. So in other words, if you take pleasure in the work that you do, you will find the sense of perfection in the work. So, and of course, nothing's perfect. Nothing will ever be perfect. Perfection is achieved when nothing can be taken away.
I think that's like a allusion to perfection. Like nothing is perfect. And that's why I like to say we're perfectly imperfect. Like nothing is going to be perfect. And then you never know what greatness still people are seeing at times. Like people inbox me things and I'm like, they don't know. That was like, I was messing up that night. People are like, oh, I love this. And I'm like, you don't know. I was like totally messing up. But that's the point, just to be moving forward and doing it and not be so, you know, because if you care about something, if that's your passion, you are going to put the best you can into it. And that's what matters, making that effort. Absolutely.
Being authentically you. And that's really what I talk about too, you know, it's really being authentically you. So again, as you're passionate, I've heard it earlier, the passion that comes out in what you all are doing, as you continue to move forward, it looks like you know what you're doing wrong. You know that's you, but you just already said it. Everybody else is looking like, wow. And that's because you're being authentic. You're being authentic in who you are and what you are passionate about and your purpose. And so that attracts people and they see.
Absolutely. And just showing that you are flawed too. I think that helps people when people see that you are flawed. And so I wanted to ask this of the therapist though. Are there times where you feel like you got too invested in the client? Like you were like, okay, I done got too caught up in this client.
Do you want the truth or can we make
The thing is, you all are human. This is because, like, as a social worker, I had to tell myself this at times. Like, don't take this home. stop. I would be cooking dinner and be like, okay, stop thinking about this. You know, they done got too much in my head. So how do we, and I think someone earlier asked the question, like, how do you not take it home? Like, have you ever found yourself having to be like, look, okay, let me stop getting too invested. And Chanel too, like some of your clients that you coach. So I'll start with Dr. Aguirre.
I actually had to learn early on, because you can take things in, but even I learned honestly when I was in school doing my externship, and I was bringing everybody and everything home with me. Until one night I was like, yeah, you're gonna need help in a minute, because I mean, because you're trying to fix these young people, and you constantly are thinking about, their whole situation, and how can you, make it better. So instead, I would leave that office and pray in that office and leave out of that office and leave everything right there, and that's what I had to learn. So that became my norm, because I can't take you home. I got other stuff I got to do. My brain got to be on other things, You can, I'm a note writer. So I might write a note, what needs to be done next time, outside of their regular notes, or I need to check into X, Y, and Z. But you have to learn, you have to come up with some techniques and tools that you can release that, because you're cheating you out of your own mental hygiene when you bring that home. That's loading, that's top loading you. Because if you have family at home, if you have other things at home that you personally need to deal with, if you're bringing all that client work home and their situations with you, you're top loading yourself. So you have to learn how to say, okay, that's work at home. I mean, you leave that work at your office and then come home and be you with your husband or your wife and your kids and your mom, your dad, whomever's at home, your boyfriend, your boo, whoever he or she is, because you're cheating them out of who you are and what you can offer to that family life, because you still working on what happened today at the office. So you have to learn how to detach. You have to treat yourself mentally. You got to talk to yourself. I think Dr. Tucker said earlier, you got to have them self-talks. Okay, Mo, you can't do this right now. Leave that there. So that's me personally. That's how I deal with it. And I learned early on.
How about you, Dr. Tucker?
So for me, it was the same thing as an internship. I was working at an internship for Vista Maria. And if you don't know, it's a group home or home for young girls, right, who are homeless. And some of them have been there for a while. So I remember it was my supervisor had told me, I went to her, we had to talk about our clients. And I was telling her that I was going to help this young girl get some shoes. And, she's taking pictures and she's excited about taking pictures. She don't got no shoes. And she said, why do you need to do that? I said, because she don't have any shoes. She's in the home and, she was like, she started asking me questions. Now I know as a therapist, like why she was asking me that, because she was trying to help me to see that I internalized this, right? And so she was like, she got into my background and where you came from, you the oldest. And she's like, and so you're doing the same thing. She just needs you to be there. Your job is not to do that. And that thing sat with me right now to this day, like, oh, that's not my job. I thought my job was to solve every problem, right? I didn't know my job was just to help, like to be there, to listen. That's my job as a therapist. But I didn't recognize that until then. And then a light came on for me that I can't take all these situations home with me. I have to allow myself to be okay with what I should be there for. And like you said, Dr. Wire, I am a person that now I understand that I need to pray and I give God everything. I'm like, here's the problems that I was addressed today. I know you heard the same thing. And so I pray for my clients, and then I leave it right there. Because I understand that that's not my job to fix it. That's his job. And when I decide that I'm going to fix it, then I become him. And I can't be him because I can't do what he can do, right? So I had to tone it down and tell myself that is not your job. Your job is to do just what you're doing. He equipped you for that gift, not to solve every problem. That's not your job. And so I learned earlier on to leave that at the office through internship as well.
Okay. Napoleon.
Oh, boy. So... The truth is, it is so difficult sometimes to disengage And it's simply because if you love the work and you love how you do the work, then you put your heart on the line. But it does take sometimes a few experiences to teach you that you are expending yourself beyond your measure, and you will lose yourself based on the amount of effort and attention and energy that you're putting in. It took me there were a couple of folks who came my way. One was a little boy who witnessed his mother murdered by his father. He would come into session, he would say 0 words. He would say nothing. We would try play, we would talk. I mean, literally nothing. And so, of course, I was a strong clinician then. And so in my head, I was thinking, well, this is, it's fine, selective mutism, no problem. It's all good. Well, we got further into it, maybe 5 or 6 sessions in, and I just was exhausted. I mean, literally exhausted. Long story short, our very last session, when I had to tell him it was going, we had to separate. Literally, this boy started talking, and he started talking so fast. He was like, wait. We got to talk. There's more things we got to talk about. I got to say this, and I need to say this, and I need to say this. And I remember being at a point where I was thinking to myself, this is way too much. I was overwhelmed. So I'm saying that to say that was a situation that taught me that I was far too invested, far too much, far too close than I thought. And like Dr. Tucker said, you are literally just a guide on the side. And what was benefiting him was me just sitting there with him, because nobody was able to sit with the kind of pain and suffering that he had at that time. And so just sitting with him, nobody would sit with him for an hour. And so just sitting with him taught me so much. And so I guess I say that to say, because we're clinicians, we sign up for walking with people through pain and suffering. But you also have to remember that you're an objective party in that whole process, so that you can be there presently, as Dr. Aguirre mentioned earlier, present to help. And when you're present to help, you do a much better or efficient job than anything else.
I love it. And probably Napoleon, because he was a little boy and you're a man, you probably felt like, I couldn't imagine my mother being murdered.
Well, countertransference and transference.
Yeah, right. Because I mean, we human, right?
The entire time I was sitting there thinking, if I was him, what would I feel?
Right.
Exactly. For a good little while, I got lost in that space. So anyway, I got a whole lot of stories that said I got too close, but time and experience helped me to become far more objective.
Better at that. Yeah. Okay. Yep. So right quick, Chanel, what about you? Have you ever had that experience? And then Robin, I want to show this video right quick and get you all's response to this video from the Boris L. Henson Foundation. But what about you, Chanel?
Yeah, I have. Same, very similar undergrad. Just people will always come to me for advice and counsel all the time, and setting those boundaries. When I realized that energy and always trying to help people solve their problems and issues, it was draining, very draining. And so I learned through, even as Napoleon said, through time and experience, that how do I protect myself and what do I do so I can continue to pour out into others. And so I make sure I establish those boundaries, taking time for myself, retreating when I have to, and not apologizing when I do that. So, yeah.
Ooh, say that, not apologizing when I do. Now that's something that I've had to teach myself as a wife and a mother.
Yeah.
Like, y'all gonna have to wait. Okay. That's not a priority for me right now, because as a wife and mother, of course, I know that's my role to make things snap, crackle, and pop. What do you need? What do you need? Take care of me. But then sometimes I'm like, y'all gonna have to wait. And no is a complete sentence. No.
Absolutely.
No, I don't feel like doing that today. And that's really what the pandemic has taught me. Like, it's okay to slow down and say no. It's okay that you don't have to go to certain things. Yep. People will still thrive without you. Yes. They will be just fine if you are not the person who's picking up whatever they're putting down. So, so Robin, let's go into this video. This is from the Boris L. Henson Foundation. They launched, this is Taraji P. Henson's organization, is based on, it was started, inspired by her father. It helps, their goal, because her father has some mental health struggles. So their goal is to eradicate the stigmas around mental health, and provide support and awareness and different programs. So this new program that they just started is the Unspoken Curriculum, and just pretty much focusing on how our children view themselves and how we can examine that, how there are so many disparities, especially with our children of color, in some of those messages that they are taught, when not just the formal education of things, but other messages that they get from their school environments. So Robin, if you could please bring up that video.
Hey, baby.
Hey, Mom.
That's what you learned in school today.
Today I learned there's a reason the pictures in my history book are black and white. And so we can pretend the past is past and not still present in plain sight. And so people can tell me that racism today is not really serious and not still sitting next to me in my first, second, and third period.
Today I learned I can master language like Langston. That I'm gonna grow up to earn an Emmy, Grammy, and get my Toni Morrison on. And yet, you'll still deduct points from my creative writing papers because this isn't grammatically correct.
Today, I learned in doodles, you can see creativity or disruption, self-expression or dysfunction. But the difference between detention and diagnosis of a deficit in attention is the pigmentation of that fine line between problem and potential.
Today I learned which hallways get metal detectors instead of hall monitors, police officers instead of school counselors, that you perpetually suspect I'm a suspect, even though it's not my face in the news when there's another school shooting.
Today I learned I can wake up to a stressed out mom, come home to a dad dealing with things he does not have the power to speak on, that I can watch people who look like me be murdered on TV, that I can be crumbling inside, like the foundations of the playgrounds I'm supposed to be able to play on, and the only thing anyone at school will ask me is, why didn't I do my English homework last night?
We know the names of the founding fathers.
What it takes to diagram a sentence.
How to add up all the variables of any equation.
But those aren't the lessons we carry with us.
So what did I learn today? Exactly what you taught me.
Wow.
Okay, so yeah, heavy. Yeah, because I mean the statistics are staggering. Schools with 90% or more of students of color spend less than $730 a year per student. Black students are almost 4 times likely to receive 1 or more out of school suspensions as the white students. We already have heard about how in the history books, how some of the history books have said how slaves were workers and were paid. So we already are aware of this. So I just want to touch a little bit on mental health for children. I really feel that's we promote it a lot for adults, but I really think it's essential for children. And things like the Unspoken Curriculum are attempting to get at that core of what affects our children mentally, because they observe and they see stuff. We don't always have to tell them. These kids are smart. They've got social media. They've got so many things, and they recognize the disparities in when they see their counterparts. So anyone want to touch on that? Yeah, I know. I was watching it too, like, oh Lord, this touched my soul when I watched it. Yeah.
Yes, because you know what? I think it's very important that we learn to sit with our kids. Just as Napoleon, like you said, the young boy had never had anyone to sit with him. And so like you saying, the mom is feel like we look like the mom seems like she's engaged, right? What did you learn? However, are we doing this in the household? Because here's the thing, we as a parent, and we go through different things in our household with our husband, with our sisters, with whoever, our family members, and the kid ingest all of this information, right? And don't know what to do with it. And we never sit down and say, I know you heard that conversation. How do you feel about that? What did you get from it? It was something that I should not have been talking about in front of you. But so we need to check ourselves, right? But we won't do that because we're parents, right? As parents, we feel like we have the right to do something in regards to, we don't realize that we're hurting our kids in the process. It is very important that we sit with these kids, because at the end of the day, they become adults. And this is where it starts as a child, where they have suppressed everything that has been done to them, and nobody is talking to them about it. And then what happens is they go out into the world, and when they hear something that triggered their mom, now it triggers them. And so now you have a big battle about what's going on, because it was never talked about in the home. So I just feel like that unspoken curriculum means that we need to start in our household and understand that, like you said, I'm my first client. What you saw in the home was not right today. And I have to apologize to you for you hearing what you heard. And I want to know, how did that make you feel? Because when I start to do that, then I give my child an opportunity to express how they feel, and they don't have to hold it in. They don't have to hold my anger in, right? Because I'm going to be on the mom's side, I'm going to be on the dad's side, whoever side it is, they shouldn't have to hold that in. That shouldn't be their stuff. That should be something that's my stuff. And I should be able to cover my child, because that's where parenting starts. So we have to know that we're not doing it. So I just want to say, for me, it starts in the home.
It does, Dr. Tucker. But let me also say this to that point, is that it should start in the home. And because we have so many parents that don't recognize it being an issue, that it doesn't always start there. And then we also have to realize that our children, our young adults, are absorbing so much, not just in the home, but when they step outside of the home, you know, and parents fail to realize that outside of the home, there's what we call life. Life is happening, and these children are absorbing that life. Just a snippet of a conversation I had Friday with one of my god kids. I have 6. And so number 4, he shared with me, you know, his fears of getting prepared for school, for college. And, you know, he was like, he said, I don't think I'm ready. I don't think I can. But it is that fear. And then he shared with me some things about what's going on at school. And so he said, he looked at me and he said, God, mommy, I'm really stressed and I have a lot of anxiety. So instead of us going out for like a 2-hour dinner, it turned into 5, because I snapped into conversation to figure out what is going on, you know, and we don't take that time to explore with our children. What did you hear? How are you feeling? Let's talk about it. Instead, we revert to let them watching TV, let them playing games, sitting there texting, instead of turning all electronics off and having conversation to figure out what is really going on with that child or these children. Because the lack of communication leads to the other problems. While we're having kids shooting kids, you know, we're having, you know, kids abusing other children while they're
committing
suicide, you know. So we at home, although that's where it should start, it isn't starting there. And that is where we got to address that whole pancake of a problem, you know, and teaching the parents.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. We have to be able to sit with our children, because like for you, like you said, your godson felt that you were a safe place. And so that's what I'm saying in the house. If we start with ourselves first as being that safe place for our kids to come talk to us about what they see out in the world, then and only then we can help them to get some stability on how to behave or how to react to what they encounter. And that's why I'm saying that as a parent, as a, you know, like you're saying, the godparent, the aunt, the uncle, the village as it used to be, right, is where it needs to start, so that we can give them the tools that they need to go out in the world. But we have to start with ourselves first. Like you said,
right. That's what I was gonna say.
I am my
right.
It has to start at home. It has to start at home.
Right.
I was gonna say, a lot of parents don't even realize they've been traumatized. A lot of parents don't realize that their childhood trauma is trickling over into your parenting. That's what parents don't realize. So that's why I'm encouraging people, and we're gonna give some resources in a little bit. And unfortunately, we got to start wrapping things up, you all. But right quick, I want Napoleon and Chanel, just you all to give your feedback on that, and then I want to go around and have you all tell where everyone can find you, etc. Because we want to encourage the adults to start seeking therapy, dealing with their stuff, so that you can help your children. So Napoleon and then Chanel, please.
Okay. Well, I'll be very brief because W.E.B. Du Bois said that there's a peculiar attitude in this nation about the well-being of our race. And there are very few instances in history, civilized history, where human suffering has been treated with such peculiar indifference. And I think the most abhorrent thing is for my little brothers and sisters and myself, when I was going through school, to have to put up with the disparities and inequities in education, even from well-meaning people, because a system shapes people who even mean well when they don't think for themselves. This is a clear experience of systemic racism, institutionalized racism. You could be hopeful and happy and want to teach the world, but if you walk into a system that is deeply ensconced in racism, you can't help but to perpetuate its effects because it is embedded in the system. Yep. So this is the absolute worst example. I mean, I hate that this is the case, but we can't wait on Superman to come save us. We can't wait on anybody else. We have to be that village, like my sisters are saying. We have to be that village and help to rebuild community.
Okay, Chanel.
And I just think we are the minority, as we just talked about. I have 3 children, 2 are adults, and 22, 20, and 13. And I'm always checking for them. You okay? What you think? What's going on? How did that affect you? Constant, to where I know I annoyed the heck out of them. So we have to be willing to listen to them because they're teaching us. And my children taught me, they'll express what's going on and they'll say something. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. And so being willing and open, like y'all have said, listen and being willing to make that change too. It goes back to that self-awareness, also self-reflection. I'm not always right. And especially when you start when you're parenting adults, it's more challenging to me than it is younger children. And so it causes a shift because they're dealing with life.
Okay, we're gonna see.
And you got to be willing to communicate that. And my children experienced where they were in all Black schools, but then they also were in mixed schools where they were their minorities. So we've had those conversations and checking for that. So it's the communication, bottom line, communication is just everything.
Right.
And being willing to listen when they tell you.
Right.
And then making some changes. So
and admit that when you're wrong. I've had to try to practice that with my kids to let them know that mommy messed up.
Absolutely.
I was wrong for that. And then initiating those conversations even when they might not seem like it. Like my daughter, I hate when I'll come sit on her bed like, okay, what's going on? How you doing? What's going on in your life? She like, I'm, she want to be on her phone, but like, no. And with my son, he's more welcome to it because he's 10. He's not a teenager. So, but just like you said, taking that time to ask them how they feel, and even if you don't like it, what they say.
Absolutely.
Because kids gonna be honest with us. And I had a friend that brought to my attention, like sometimes we teach kids to lie to us because we want them to make us feel comfortable with that answer.
Yes.
So we got to get out of that because if anything else, kids, they will keep you honest. They will they will let you know what's happening. And that's something I admire about kids too, how they have that innocence where they are open to absorbing things. They're open to looking at different things. So I really appreciated you all. We can go on all night, but of course we got to wrap it up. So I just want to have each of you go around, tell people where they can find you, Of course, everyone go to their websites, purchase their books, follow them, reach out to them for therapy. We have a couple other services as far as the Therapeutic Loft as well is another service I recommend. Evolution Counseling, My Faith Source Counseling. There are a plethora of resources out here. So Monique is Dr. Monique Aguirre. I'm going to put this into I don't know, Monique, if you can put that into the Facebook. I'm going to put that into the Facebook too.
Okay, I'll put it in.
Yeah, put it into the Facebook too.
Okay.
But you all can reach her. Where can they follow you online though?
Facebook, it is Dr. Mo Speaks. And also that is the same for Instagram, Dr. Mo Speaks.
Okay.
So it's the same.
Yeah. Okay. And so, yeah, if you all can put that into the Facebook live for me, please. I'll put it in. So Napoleon, people can find you at ambassadorcounseling.com.
Ambassadorcounseling.com. On IG, I'm Courage Counselor. Twitter, they're all different handles. On Twitter, I'm in Harrington Jr. And in real life, I'm Napoleon Harrington.
In real life. Okay. In real life. Okay. And then Chanel Denise, if you are invited to show up, where people can get that at ChanelDenise.com. And then your IG is _Chanel Denise _. Yeah. And Dr. Tucker, where can people find you?
You can find me at Monique Tucker on Facebook. You can also find me at Pink Proverbs on Facebook, and also Proverbs Tucker on Instagram. And you can also find me at pinkproverbs.com is where you will find all the services that I have, and also where you can get my book. I also have a clothing line, and I also do a talk show. So I also do a talk show as well. I host a talk show. Rocki was on my show. I think it was in April.
It was March. It was Women's History Month.
Yes. So I will be starting the show back up in September. The show is really about empowering women in different areas. And I have different women on to talk about how we can empower them in different areas. So you ladies, I would love to have you on the show. It starts back up in September. So hopefully we share our information that we can all get together, and I can get you guys on the show as well.
I love it. Where does it's on AM 1440?
It's on 1440 AM.
Okay. Thank you to you all. I really appreciate you all, Dr. Aguirre, Dr. Tucker, Napoleon, and Chanel. And right quick, I just wanted to mention to everyone again, the Trill Grill is happening this Saturday at the Villages Beer Garden, 1420 Van Dyke. That's from 2 to 7 p.m. You can find tickets on Eventbrite. So pretty much there's going to be vegan barbecue, yoga, music, vendors. So make sure you all check that out. They're going to be kombucha cocktails there. So that's happening in Detroit this Saturday, 2 to 7 p.m. Shout out to Chrissy Hudson of K1 Services. Make sure you all get your tickets for that. And I thank everyone for listening and tuning in. Thank you to my guests as always. I really appreciate and love you all for your expertise. I know this has helped someone. So I'm encouraging listeners, viewers, please reach out to either one of these therapists, or if not, reach out to me and we can direct you to someone. Just reach out to someone. Just find those resources. Don't make excuses and say, I don't have the money, I don't have insurance. There are resources out here for you for your mental health. So, and I encourage you all to be mindful of that and take care of that. So thank you all. Appreciate my guests. And we all will see you June 10th. And we will have a special guest June 10th. All right. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rocki.
Good night. Thank you, Rocki.
Good night,
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.